Welcome to this edition of Assembly Update. I'm Ted Flint. Joining us for today's program, Assemblyman Brian Curran, who serves the 21st Assembly District, which includes Nassau County. Assemblyman Curran, good to see you.
It's good seeing you too, Ted.
All right, let's focus. We're going to focus a lot of this program on election integrity and how it's suffering here, not just in New York State, but across the country. And you've written a column which I think focuses on a lot of what's wrong with the process. A recent Gallup poll shows fewer than 6 in 10 Americans are somewhat confident in the election process. That those numbers cannot continue to trend downward, can they?
No, and thank you for having me today. You're absolutely right. This was a hot button issue, probably as far back as I remember, is the 2000 election, when the Democrats were calling President Bush an illegitimate president because of hanging chads in Florida, and then that continued on to the 2016 election with President Donald Trump, when again the Democrats, were calling him an illegitimate president due to Russian collusion. And then, of course, this past election, it was my party. It was the Republicans who were saying that Joe Biden didn't win the election, and that there was stolen votes and a lot of things going on, that he didn't really win the election. So you talked about the Gallup poll, and those numbers reflected 2020, but before 2000, from 1964 to 1996, over 70% of the public had faith in our elections. So you tell me, there clearly is a correlation about what's been going on since 2000 up until now about people losing faith in what the actual results of an election are. And that's troubling, because that's a bedrock principle of our entire system, free and fair elections. So we should be concerned about it. And it doesn't seem like we are.
Political leaders across the country are passing laws, or enacting laws that fundamentally would change the way we hold elections in the country. And that's happening here in New York State specifically. Speak to that, if you would.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what we just spoke about people losing faith and trust in election results, you would think that government's main priority would be to shore up that trust, to make sure that we take every step we could to make sure that people believe that in the day after election day, that those results are the actual results. And we're not doing that. We're doing actually the exact opposite. One example that I like to put forward is, voter ID in elections across the country enjoy close to an 80% approval rate among all voters, not just Republican, not Democrat, not independents, all voters. And that's probably because you need photo ID for the simplest of actions here in any state. But, unfortunately, the other side of my aisle, and that would be the Democrats, have consistently opposed this very reasonable measure that would reinforce people's trust in who's voting in our elections. And they voted down, and they reject it every single time, which is a shame. And that would be a big step in reinforcing people's trust in our elections. But here in New York, as you talked about, Ted, we're not only taking steps to reinforce their trust. It seems like we're taking steps in the opposite direction. We are creating and passing laws which clearly puts a very heavy thumb on the scale of who is going to win election by a variety of ways. And that's just going to cause more voter mistrust in the elections than anything else.
In the final couple of weeks of the legislative session, Democrats, one bill would change most town and county elections to even numbered years. You spoke in opposition to that bill. We have your comments on the floor of the Assembly. Let's take a look at some of the reasons why you oppose that bill, and we'll come back and we'll comment further with Assemblyman Brian Curran.
This bill, specifically as it is here tonight, and with only promises that we're going to do something in the future, excludes every city within the state, which is 1/3 of the voters every time that they go to the polling. Second, it wouldn't include school district elections and fire districts that have the lower voter turnout of everywhere except for the cities. Then it will decrease voter turnout in the elections that remain in odd-numbered years. And there's a percentage, as we spoke about, of ballots drop off in every election that will offset any voter increase in the local elections that we're actually moving to the even numbered years. It's also not about cost savings in the money. Board of Elections will incur increased costs for, I believe, for new ballots or the way that they have to actually deal with it. Based upon this, and the skeptic in me says that this bill is purely about politics. It's about reshuffling certain elections to even years so that one party has more of a chance to win those elections.
Yeah, we already have one party rule here, as you know, in New York State, and this would add to that. Has the governor signed this bill yet or no?
No, she has signaled her intent to do it, but she
Right.
hasn't as of right now. But let me just say something. Yes, the state is a one-party state right now, with both the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor's office being held by Democrats. Every city, village elections, school board elections, they were excluded from this bill. This was a targeted bill to certain areas whereby they're changing the election dates and the schedules to move those elections from odd numbered years to even years. And like I said, there are so many things wrong with this bill. It's so bad of a bill that Newsday came out and said that it's a bad bill and they should keep the local elections where they are. Because you know what? The elections of town council, town supervisor, county executive, and county legislature are going to be overshadowed by the federal and state issues, presidential and governor elections. And the most important issues to my constituents is local issues. And they're going to be overshadowed and drowned out. And by the time you get down to the end of that ballot, most people are going to drop off the ballot and not even going to vote in those elections. So the 18% increase that the Democrats are counting on in those new years is going to be dropped off, historically has been shown, dropped off at the end of those, could be up to 30 people on the ballot. So we'll have to wait to see, but it's a bad bill. Nassau County and town of Hempstead has had their elections in odd numbered years for over 80 years with no incident, no problem. All of a sudden, we're looking to change that. I'm going to leave it up to everybody to figure out why they're doing it, and only in certain areas.
Okay. There is another bill that you oppose, the New York Early Mail Voter Act. It was rejected by the voters, soundly rejected, but here it is again. The governor may or may not sign it, but I mean, give us your reasons for opposing that.
Well, it's no excuse voting, and you talked about it right off the bat. A lot of times, again, our priority should be making sure that we instill confidence in our elections with the voters. Well, this particular measure, the no excuse voting, mail-in voting, it was put before the voters for an amendment just 2 years ago, and soundly rejected it. Close to 70% rejected the measure. And now here we are, the legislature and the majority has decided, forget about what the voters told us. We're going to do an end run. We're going to just make a legislative law saying that you can do this. And the law allows, listen, currently you can't vote early and by mail, by absentee, unless you have specific reasons. And that has been in effect forever. Now they've changed it. Now anybody can vote for any reason within that early voting time by mail without excuse. And again, can't stress it enough. The voters told us they don't want this just a year and a half ago. We turned around and did the exact opposite. Can I just say one other thing, Ted? I know I'm running long here, but this is not the first time they have absolutely gone against the will of the people. We've seen this before in redistricting. In redistricting, the majority of the Albany Democrats, they wanted an independent redistricting commission back in 2014. They got it when there was divided government. Then in 2019, when that bill was going to kick into effect in 2020, the Democrats were in control of everything. All of a sudden, they didn't want somebody who was independent to redistrict these political districts, which is called gerrymandering. They want to gerrymander these districts so that the majority has the chance to win every single seat that they can. And that's not what the voters want. That's what makes them question these elections. And they did the same thing. They put it to an amendment. The voters said they wanted independent redistricting. They didn't listen to them. They drew their own maps, and then eventually it got thrown out by the courts as unconstitutional because they were so partisan, those maps, that they had to throw them out. But again, the Democrats didn't listen to the public. Now they're back in court trying to have the original maps that they drew, very partisan maps, but back in place for the next election. Again, we're doing the wrong thing by the voters.
All righty. Got a couple of minutes left with Assemblyman Brian Curran. Let's talk about couple of lighter issues. Flag Day in your district. We have some pictures here from Lynbrook, East Rockaway, Baldwin, and Malvern. Let's take a look at some of those clips.
Yeah, it was a great day. We have students that actually write essays or do posters about what the flag means to them. We go through the school districts. It was a great event, and I have to actually make sure that I give a shout out to the best wife that a person can have, and that's my wife, Rosemary, who handled the entire affair because we were stuck in Albany on the last days of session, and she handled the whole affair, and it was a great day. The kids had a great time, and listen, anytime that we can reinforce what the flag for this great country means, we should do it. And it's a nice day for them, and I think it goes a long way in making an impression on these young people about what this country is.
Absolutely, I agree totally. I mean, we need to revive a sense of patriotism here in America. I love Flag Day. I think it's overlooked a lot, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Also, there's an event happening in September, the New York Assembly's 21st District Run for Heroes, which will raise money for local VFWs and American Legions. Talk about that a little bit. We get about a minute and a half left or so.
Yeah. So this is, when I took office back in 2010, the local veteran houses, whether it be the American Legions or the VFWs, they were having trouble raising money. So we came up with the idea of holding a 5K race. We've held it every year since 2000, I believe, 11. And it raises a lot of money for all of the local houses. Every single dime goes to to either American Legions in Lynbrook, Malvern, East Rockaway, Rockville Center, Baldwin, or Freeport. It's a great day. It's a nice run. We have a lot of veterans out there helping us with the race. And again, these houses, they're getting less and less members, and it's getting harder and harder to keep these houses open. But I always felt that it was important so that our veterans have a place to go and talk to one another and have a place where they feel comfortable, and to keep these houses open. So this race, at least for the Assembly 21st District, goes a long way in making sure these houses stay open. So anybody who wishes to participate, please go online, register for the race. We want as many runners as possible. And like I said, every single dime goes to those listed veteran homes, and you'll be doing a really good thing.
All right. That's September 9th.
Yes, it is.
Assemblyman Brian Curran, thank you very much for joining us. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, they can call your district office. That number, 516-561-8216. Assemblyman Brian Curran, always a pleasure to see you. We wish you the best for the rest of the summer.
Thank you very much. You too.
All right. Thanks for joining us.